Long before pharmacies filled every street and before modern medicine gave us advanced treatments, people relied on something much closer to home. They turned to plants growing in their gardens, ingredients sitting in their kitchens, and traditions passed down from grandparents and older generations. Some of these remedies came from centuries of observation. People noticed that certain foods, herbs, and simple household practices could bring comfort during common everyday problems. While modern medicine has transformed our lives and should always be trusted for serious health concerns, many traditional home remedies remain fascinating examples of human knowledge, resourcefulness, and connection with nature. Today, we are going back in time to explore natural remedies that people around the world trusted before modern medicine became widely available. These are not magical cures or replacements for professional medical care. Instead, they are reminders of how previous generations used what they had around them to support their everyday well-being. Some of these traditions may already be familiar. Others might surprise you. Let's begin with one of the most famous natural ingredients that has been used for generations: honey. For thousands of years, honey has been valued not only as a sweet food but also as a traditional household remedy. Ancient cultures around the world used honey in different ways because of its soothing properties. One of the most common uses was for a sore throat. Before modern cough drops and syrups existed, many people would take a spoonful of honey or mix it with warm water or herbal drinks. The reason this tradition survived for so long is simple: honey creates a smooth coating sensation in the throat, which many people find comforting when they experience irritation. Another classic combination was honey with lemon. Families often prepared warm drinks with these ingredients during colder months. The bright flavor of lemon combined with the sweetness of honey created a comforting drink that became a familiar household tradition. However, it is important to remember that honey should not be given to children under 1 year old because of safety concerns. Another ingredient that appeared in many traditional homes was ginger. For generations, ginger has been used in different cultures as a warming spice and a natural household ingredient. People often prepared ginger tea by slicing fresh ginger root and adding hot water. Many believed this drink helped them feel more comfortable during cold weather, after heavy meals, or when they simply needed something warm and soothing. Ginger became especially popular because it was easy to store and could be used in cooking as well as traditional preparations. In many homes, the kitchen itself was considered a small natural pharmacy. Simple ingredients like garlic were not only used to add flavor to food but also respected for their traditional role in supporting health. Garlic has been used for centuries across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Ancient communities valued it as an important part of their daily diet. People often believed that including garlic in meals helped them stay strong, especially during seasons when illnesses were more common. Another traditional favorite was peppermint. Long before modern digestive remedies existed, many families prepared peppermint tea after meals. The fresh aroma and cooling sensation made it a popular choice for people looking for a comforting drink. Herbal teas were a major part of traditional home care because they were simple to prepare. A person could collect dried leaves, flowers, or roots, store them, and use them throughout the year. Chamomile was another herb with a long history. For generations, people drank chamomile tea in the evening as part of a calming bedtime routine. The tradition became popular in many countries because the gentle floral flavor created a relaxing experience. Many older generations believed that small daily habits, such as drinking a warm herbal tea before sleep, helped create balance and comfort in everyday life. Another well-known traditional remedy was the use of steam. Before modern humidifiers and specialized products became common, people often used simple steam methods when they wanted relief from stuffiness caused by dry air or seasonal discomfort. A bowl of hot water and a towel were once common household items used in these practices. Today, we understand that steam does not cure infections, but warm moisture can sometimes provide temporary comfort for irritated airways. Care must always be taken, because hot water and steam can cause burns. One of the most interesting things about traditional remedies is how different cultures discovered similar ideas. Across continents, people used warm drinks, soothing foods, aromatic plants, and rest as part of caring for themselves. A grandmother in one country might prepare herbal tea, while another family thousands of kilometers away might use a different local plant with a similar purpose. The ingredients changed, but the idea remained the same. Nature provided resources that people learned to use through experience. Another traditional household remedy that many people remember is the use of salt water. For generations, families have used warm salt water as a simple home practice for mouth and throat comfort. Salt was valuable because it was widely available and had many practical uses beyond cooking. Before modern products became common, households often depended on basic ingredients that could serve multiple purposes. This resourcefulness was one of the greatest strengths of earlier generations. They wasted very little. A simple ingredient was not seen as just one thing. It could be food, a cleaning material, or part of a traditional remedy. For example, apple cider vinegar has been used in household traditions for centuries. People included it in cooking and also used it in various folk practices. Many old traditions around vinegar came from the belief that natural fermented products had special qualities. Today, we know that some traditional uses have scientific support, while others remain based mainly on cultural experience. This is an important lesson when looking at old remedies. Tradition can teach us interesting ideas, but it is always important to understand what science has confirmed and what remains uncertain. The wisdom of previous generations was not about having a solution for everything. It was about observation. People paid attention to plants, seasons, foods, and their own bodies. They learned what made them feel comfortable and passed those habits to their children and grandchildren. And some of these simple traditions survived for hundreds of years because they fit naturally into everyday life. But there are many more forgotten remedies that families once kept in their kitchens and gardens. From common herbs to surprising household ingredients, the next part reveals even more traditional practices that people relied on before modern medicine changed the way we care for ourselves. One of the most interesting things about traditional home remedies is that many of them were created from ingredients that people already had nearby. They did not need complicated equipment or expensive products. Instead, they used what nature provided and what was available in their own homes. One example that has been remembered for generations is the use of onions. The onion was much more than a cooking ingredient in many households. It was considered a valuable natural item that could be stored for long periods and used throughout the year. In traditional practices, people often prepared warm onion mixtures or combined onions with other simple ingredients. These preparations were especially common during colder seasons when families looked for comforting ways to deal with everyday discomfort. Even today, many people remember the smell of onion-based home remedies from childhood because they were often prepared by parents or grandparents. Another familiar ingredient from traditional households was the potato. Potatoes were not only an important food source but also appeared in many old home practices. In some cultures, people used warm potato compresses as a traditional method for providing comfort. The reason these practices became popular was because warmth itself can feel soothing. A warm compress can create a relaxing sensation and was an accessible option at a time when people had fewer choices. However, traditional methods were always based on comfort rather than replacing proper medical treatment. Another plant with a long history is aloe vera. For centuries, people in different parts of the world valued aloe vera and kept the plant in their homes. Its thick leaves contained a gel-like substance that was traditionally used on the skin. Many families considered aloe vera a useful household plant because it was easy to grow and did not require much care. The plant became especially associated with skin care traditions. People often used it after spending time outdoors or whenever their skin needed extra attention. Aloe vera became a symbol of the idea that useful remedies could sometimes grow right in your own home. Another traditional favorite was rosemary. Today, rosemary is mostly known as a cooking herb, but throughout history it had many cultural meanings. People used it in food, prepared herbal drinks, and included it in traditional household practices. Its strong fragrance made it popular for creating a fresh atmosphere in homes. Many old traditions connected certain plants with memories, comfort, and daily routines. A familiar scent could remind people of family kitchens, gardens, and seasonal traditions. Lavender was another plant valued not only for its beautiful appearance but also for its calming fragrance. For generations, people placed dried lavender flowers in homes, closets, and bedrooms. The pleasant smell became associated with cleanliness and relaxation. Before modern air fresheners existed, people often depended on natural scents from flowers, herbs, and spices to make their homes feel welcoming. This shows something important about older lifestyles. People often looked for simple ways to create comfort through their environment. Another traditional practice involved using warm baths with natural ingredients. Long before modern spa products existed, people enjoyed bathing rituals using herbs, flowers, and aromatic plants. A warm bath was not only about cleaning the body, it was also a moment of rest and recovery after a long day of physical work. In many cultures, bathing traditions became connected with relaxation and personal care. Another ingredient that appeared in traditional remedies was cinnamon. Cinnamon was once considered a valuable spice because it had to travel long distances. Before reaching many regions, people used it in food, drinks, and traditional preparations. Its warm aroma made it especially popular during colder months. Many families prepared cinnamon drinks or added it to recipes as part of seasonal traditions. Turmeric was another ancient ingredient with a remarkable history. Used for thousands of years in South Asian cultures, turmeric became an important part of cooking and traditional practices. Its bright golden color made it easy to recognize, and it became associated with warmth, nourishment, and cultural traditions. Many families passed down recipes containing turmeric from one generation to another. Another common household practice was using simple broths and soups during times when people did not feel their best. Across many cultures, chicken soup and vegetable broths became symbols of care and comfort. A warm bowl of soup provided hydration, nutrients, and a feeling of being looked after. The tradition of making soup for someone who was sick was not only about the ingredients. It was also about kindness and support. Food has always played a powerful role in human care. Another forgotten tradition was preserving and fermenting foods. Before refrigerators and modern food storage systems became common, people developed ways to keep food available throughout the year. Fermented vegetables, preserved fruits, and homemade preparations were part of everyday life. These methods helped families survive difficult seasons and created foods that became important cultural traditions. For example, fermented foods appeared in many countries because people discovered that controlled fermentation could help preserve food. Today, scientists continue to study fermented foods and their relationship with nutrition. But for earlier generations, fermentation was often simply a practical way to avoid wasting food. Avoiding waste was one of the biggest lessons from older households. People repaired items instead of replacing them. They saved leftovers. They reused containers. They grew herbs in small gardens. And they learned how to make the most of what they already had. This same mindset influenced their approach to health. A person might grow mint near the kitchen, dry herbs for winter, collect honey from local beekeepers, or save traditional recipes written by previous generations. Knowledge was stored not only in books but also in family memories. Grandparents often became the keepers of these traditions. They knew which plants grew in the area, when to collect them, how to prepare them, and which methods had been used in the family for years. Of course, not every old remedy was effective, and some traditional beliefs have changed as science has advanced. But these practices tell us an important story about human creativity. People throughout history have always searched for ways to care for themselves and their families. They observed nature. They experimented. They shared knowledge. And they created traditions that connected generations. When we look at the traditions of the past, one thing becomes clear: people did not separate daily life from caring for their health. The garden, the kitchen, and the home itself were all connected. A simple backyard could provide vegetables, herbs, flowers, and plants that families used throughout the year. A kitchen shelf could contain ingredients that served many different purposes. And a grandmother's notebook could hold generations of knowledge written in careful handwriting. One of the most interesting examples of this connection is the use of herbal gardens. Many older homes had small gardens where people grew plants like mint, thyme, sage, parsley, and other useful herbs. These plants were valuable because they could be used fresh during the growing season and dried for use during colder months. Drying herbs was a simple but important tradition. People would collect plants at the right time, allow them to dry naturally, and store them in jars or cloth bags. This allowed families to preserve the flavors and aromas of summer long. After the garden had disappeared under snow, herbal knowledge was often passed from one generation to another. A child might learn from a parent or grandparent which plants grew nearby, how they were prepared, and why certain herbs were included in traditional routines. Another ingredient that played an important role in old households was lemon. Lemons were valued because of their fresh taste and their ability to add brightness to food and drinks. Before modern vitamin supplements became common, many families focused on getting nutrients from everyday foods. A warm drink with lemon was a familiar tradition in many homes. People often prepared it during colder months because it felt refreshing and comforting. The popularity of lemon also came from its versatility. It could be used in cooking, drinks, and many household practices. Another traditional remedy that many people remember is the use of warm milk. For generations, families prepared warm milk drinks, sometimes adding ingredients such as honey or spices. This evening tradition became associated with relaxation and comfort. Whether it was the warmth, the familiar taste, or the calming routine itself, many people found this simple drink to be part of a peaceful bedtime ritual. This reminds us that old remedies were often about more than ingredients. They were about routines. A warm drink prepared by someone who cared about you could create a sense of safety and comfort. Another traditional household item was castor oil. Throughout history, castor oil was used in different cultures for various purposes. It was kept in many homes as a practical product. However, some traditional uses of castor oil are not supported by modern scientific evidence, and certain uses may not be appropriate for everyone. This is an important reminder that old traditions should always be viewed with curiosity and care. The wisdom of previous generations is valuable, but modern knowledge helps us understand which practices are truly useful and which ones should remain part of history. Another interesting tradition was the use of fruit peels and natural materials. Older generations often found creative ways to avoid waste. Orange peels, for example, were sometimes dried and used for their pleasant fragrance. Instead of immediately throwing things away, people looked for additional uses. This practical mindset shaped many household habits. People repaired clothes. They reused jars. They saved seeds from plants. They created homemade solutions because buying replacements was not always easy. This ability to adapt was one of the greatest strengths of earlier generations. Another famous natural ingredient was tea. Tea has been part of human culture for centuries, and different regions developed their own traditions. People created blends using black tea, green tea, flowers, spices, and herbs. A cup of tea was often more than a drink. It was a pause in the day. It was a moment to sit, talk, and relax. Many family traditions were built around preparing tea for guests or sharing it during important conversations. Another old practice involved breathing fresh outdoor air and spending time in nature. Before modern indoor lifestyles became common, many people naturally spent more time outside. Gardening, walking, farming, and working with plants were normal parts of everyday life. Today, research continues to explore the relationship between time outdoors, relaxation, and overall well-being. But previous generations already understood something simple: nature had a powerful effect on how people felt. Another forgotten habit was paying attention to seasonal changes. People observed the weather, the growth of plants, and the availability of certain foods. They adjusted their diets and routines according to the seasons. In spring, they used fresh greens. In summer, they collected fruits and herbs. In autumn, they preserved food for winter. This close connection with nature helped communities develop practical knowledge that lasted for centuries. One of the biggest lessons from traditional home remedies is that prevention and daily habits mattered. People focused on simple things: eating homemade meals, resting when needed, staying active, keeping their homes clean, using fresh ingredients, spending time with family. Many of these habits remain valuable today. Modern medicine has given humanity incredible tools, treatments, and discoveries. But traditional knowledge reminds us that health has always been influenced by everyday choices. The most powerful traditions were often the simplest ones. A cup of herbal tea, a nourishing meal, a walk outside, a garden full of useful plants, a family recipe passed down through generations. These small actions created a lifestyle built around care and balance. And perhaps that is why so many old remedies are still remembered today. They are not only about the ingredients themselves. They represent patience, observation, family connections, and the idea that nature can provide comfort in many different ways. Before modern medicine transformed healthcare, people relied on what they could grow, prepare, and share. Their methods were not perfect, but they showed incredible creativity and respect for the natural world. Today, we can combine the best of both worlds, the discoveries of modern science and the timeless lessons of traditional living. Because sometimes the oldest ideas can still remind us of something important. Caring for ourselves often begins with simple choices made every single day.